I'll be your pharaoh soon. Bring forth thy heaven new. Things will be.
Hi, I'm PJ Marks, owner of the Wakeboard Camp. I opened the camp in 1996 with the sole purpose of creating the best place in the world to teach people how to wakeboard better. Since then, we've spent thousands of hours teaching students of all ages and abilities. Our basic philosophy has always been that no matter what trick you're doing, the same basic skills and physics apply. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down into their most basic parts and developed exercises to simplify the learning process. At first, many of these exercises seem like they would be for beginners only, but if you take the time and examine them, you realize that they can and should be used by every rider regardless of age and ability. This series will teach you just about everything you could ever want to know about the sport of wakeboarding, from choosing your equipment, to driving the boat, to basic skills, all the way through executing the most advanced tricks. For years, people have been asking us to put all this stuff down on tape. Well, we finally feel like we know enough about the sport to write the book on wakeboarding instruction. So here it is, the book, Instructional DVD Series.
Hi, I'm Mike Mclin, and I'm here to show you how to get the most out of your DVD. First off, there are multiple audio tracks. Each audio track contains a different coach. To toggle between these different audio tracks, you need to press the audio button on your DVD player or your DVD remote control. Next, you'll see several abbreviations that we use on this DVD and throughout the book instructional series. Here's a list of some of the abbreviations you'll encounter from here on out. Along with abbreviations, you will also find progression trees in many of the trick chapters. These progression trees are lists to help you break down each trick so you can better understand how they work on the water. We designed these so you can press pause during the video and memorize each trick that makes up your goal trick and then work on them out on the water. Once you know how to break down each trick off the water, you'll be able to think through and visualize each one. When you understand this breakdown, it makes the trick that much easier when trying it behind the boat or on the trampoline. Finally, you'll notice one of 3 different edging position icons will be in the bottom left corner of each trick's chapter intro. Use these as position starting points during the approach of the trick to help you better your pop at the wake.
Hi, I'm Kyle Schmidt, head coach here at the Wakeboard Camp and instructional editor for Wakeboarding Magazine. In this DVD, we'll go over many of the intermediate and advanced inverts done on a wakeboard today. If you need help with the base parts of each of these tricks, reflect back to the base inverts DVD and the spinning DVD of this series for more detailed instructions. It's important to have the base invert down and the spin down before combining the two, and jumping ahead can cause bad habits and bad form. So remember your basics and take the proper steps. We use the trampoline a lot in this video to show you how to train on land. It's a great tool used to dial in your rotations and build muscle memory through repetition, but it's very dangerous. We recommend that you seek the assistance of a certified trampoline or gymnastics coach who has the proper equipment to help you flip safely and without injury. We have an added feature in this DVD that helps you break down each spin to its base elements called the spectrum progression tree. This small section in each chapter is placed there for you to pause and study so you can find the part or parts of the spin that you are weak at. Once you find the element or elements, dial them in and you will have more success landing the goal trick. We call it spectrum because each tree starts at the bottom at one side of the spectrum with the easiest element of the trick and grows to the other side of the spectrum to the goal trick. Knowing these elements and having the ability to break down tricks will help you visualize these tricks on and off the water. You don't necessarily have to land each and every trick in the tree to land the goal trick, and some are kind of out of the ordinary for most riders. These trees are for learning, visualization, and troubleshooting purposes, and learning as many of the tricks in the tree as possible will definitely help you learn more and faster. So let's get started with the Intermediate and Advanced Inverts DVD of the book, Wakeboard Instructional Series. The heel side roll to revert is a simple back roll with a front side 180, and a good progressive back roll will automatically turn toward revert if you edge correctly. When you edge away from the boat, the tip of your board automatically turns front side and forces your body to spin while rotating. So let the natural movement of a back roll help you rotate and land this trick. The first flip and spin that we're going to combine are the heel side back roll and the heel side front side 180. We're going to combine them to make up the heel side roll to revert. Now this is a load and release trick, and you need a really progressive edge for this trick. When you take it to the trampoline, it's a little harder to do on the trampoline because the rope plays a big role in actually helping you flip this trick. On the trampoline, what you want to do is you want to really try to jump against the rope so you keep the line tight, and as you leave the trampoline you want to push your hips to the side and open up your shoulders just like you would for a heel side back roll. The thing about the heel side roll to revert is that it's about half the rotation speed of a regular back roll, because what you want to do is you want to stop your rotation and then fall into your landing on your toes. So as you rotate and spot your landing as you would for a back roll, on the way down you want to move the handle to initiate the heel side front side 180 part of the trick. So move the handle back to the landing side of the wake, or on the trampoline you would just move it behind you and then try to land over your toes and against the rope. The two elements that you want to concentrate on for the heel side roll to revert are the actual heel side back roll and the heel side front side 180. You want to be able to gain control of your back roll so you can change the speed, and you want to be able to take your heel side front side 180s way out into the flat so you're ready for the impact of the roll to revert. For the roll to revert, you may want to take the wake out of the picture and actually learn how to do an air roll to revert. An air roll to revert, or air tricks, are tricks when you do the trick without the wake. You use the load of the line to actually initiate the trick. And what it'll do is it'll teach you how the water and the rope really works for you on this trick. It also keeps you a lot lower, so coming around and landing the trick seems a lot easier and you don't over-rotate as much as you would when you take it to the wake. For the wake-to-wake version of the trick, you definitely want to use a slow edge, but you want to concentrate more on slowing down the rotation of your back roll. For the roll to revert, you want to do about half the rotation that you normally would for a back roll, and then you want to move the handle and fall into your landing. This is going to take some guts or some courage at first, because you're used to rotating your back roll at a certain speed, and getting yourself to under-rotate and possibly take a fall is kind of hard mentally to do. So make sure you take a nice slow drifting turn with a taller position, and you're going to use the load on the line to really help you do this trick. So make sure you drift and you're patient. As you get to the trough of the wake, that's when you really want to add edge to this trick and load the line through the wake. You really need the water pushing on the board to help you get the board out behind you into the back roll. As you leave the wake, open up your shoulders and look towards the sky, but don't throw too much hips into this trick because you'll over-rotate and slide out on your heels. As you initiate the back roll, keep the handle in tight and start to move it towards your back hip as you spot the landing. On the way down, you basically want to just move the handle back towards the wakes with one hand, and that's what's going to help you fall into this trick. As you spot your landing, you want to push your hips forward, so what this will do is it'll drop the board behind you a little bit so you can fall into your landing on your toes. A lot of people actually fold in half for a roll to revert, and what this does is it brings the board way out in front of them so they actually try to land on their heels, and then this makes them slide out. So try to push your hips forward as you would when you were landing for a toe side back roll, and this will help you get onto your toe side landing. For a regular footed rider, the switch version of this trick, or a half cab roll, is a really easy trick. Since you're starting switch and coming back forward, it's kind of a natural rotation, just like a half cab 180, so a lot of people learn that trick really quick after they learn a roll to revert. When you're going to go for the grab, you want to sit down a little bit more so you can push at the wake, and you're going to have to learn how to stall your rotation even more, because when you actually grab a roll, you take the trick straight up, and when you grab the board, that actually helps you flip. So you're actually taking a little bit more of your rotation speed off to help you grab and then rotate. Popular grabs for this trick are melon grabs and slob grabs, and even nose grabs. And you'll see a variation of that on the left with Philip Combs. As you can see, Philip has a little bit more of a seated position, so he can take the trick straighter up to grab the board, whereas Joey has more of a taller position so he can load the line and take the trick higher up and then out into the flats. Joey on the right will also get more stretched out with a taller position, and Philip will be more crunched up with his knees up to his chest so he can grab the board. Both tricks though, you still want to do the same thing with the handle. You're going to keep it in tight, and on the way down you're going to move the handle towards your back hip so you can turn into the toe side landing position. For heel side back roll related tricks, you're going to be able to see the landing very early because your head leads the rotation. So you shouldn't have a problem spotting the trick if you keep your eyes open. Here we have a shot from the chase boat, and you can really see how the board travels away from the boat.
There are two ways to do a heel side roll to blind. The first way is to pass the handle on the way up to the peak of the invert, and the second is to do it on the way down. We call that either an up roll to blind or a down roll to blind. Let's start with the up roll to blind.
The next trick that we're going to talk about is the heel side roll to blind, and we're going to actually show you how to do this trick in two variations, and you'll understand why down the road. We're going to teach you how to do the early handle pass roll to blind or the up roll to blind first. And the reason we call it the up roll to blind is because you're passing the handle on the way up. You're going to use a Mexican back roll for this trick. So on the trampoline, instead of doing a side flip, you're actually going to do more of a front flip that you would do on the ground on the trampoline. So what I mean by that is you're going to throw your head forward towards your toes instead of flipping to the side like a cartwheel as you would for a progressive back roll. The key to this trick on the trampoline is initiating the rotation right off the mat. You want to really throw your shoulders and your hips into the spin right off the trampoline as you initiate the back roll. We call it the up roll to blind because you're getting the handle so early on the way up. So you really want to concentrate on pulling the handle in as you rotate right off the mat of the trampoline and make sure you get the handle as soon as possible. If you get the handle on this trick, the rope actually pulls you into landing when you take this trick to the water. One of the key elements to focus on is the heel side backside 180, and you should be able to do this with an early handle pass to mimic the early handle pass on the way up for the roll to blind. When you take it to the water, you don't want to load the line too much on this trick. You kind of want to just stay still and use a constant edge. It's going to be progressive because you're accelerating, but you don't want to load the line at the wake because that'll make the rope very tight. So use a taller position and then basically just ride through the wake and put a little hips and a big handle tug into it to get the handle into your waist so you can pass it behind your back on the way up. Like I said, for this trick, it's really important to get the handle as soon as possible because that way on the way down it almost unwraps you and actually helps you spin the trick, and then you fall into the landing on your toes. Another problem with this trick that riders have is over-rotating the trick. They throw a little bit too much side rotation into the trick instead of more spin. Like this flip has more spin than flip into it, so be really mellow with your rotation and put a lot more into the backside 180. On the landing, try to keep the handle behind you and push it back towards the wake, almost like you're trying to stick it in your back pocket, so that way you won't over-rotate on your heels. And this will keep your body facing away from the boat so you can actually fall over your toes and edge out of the trick. If you bring your head around too far, like even if you look forward, not even all the way around to the boat, you can even over-rotate the trick or over-rotate the spin, and you'll blow your fins out and you'll slide and take a fall on your heels. So be really mellow. As you can see here, both riders are actually starting the rotation as they're going up the wake, and what I call this is looping out. If you're too heavy over your tail, you're going to loop out, and this term kind of comes from BMX. Like when you're doing a wheelie on a BMX bike, if you lean back too far, the bike actually flies out in front of you, and they call that looping out. So that's kind of what you want to do on this trick. You want to try to loop out at the wake. You want to stand tall, leave the wake already rotating, turn your head and shoulders as soon as you leave the wake, and pull the handle as soon as you leave the wake. As you can see, both riders have the handle on the way up, and they're already looking for their landing, and they spot the wake on the way down. Now here you can see they're already trying to put the handle, in their back pocket and push it back towards the wake, so this stops the rotation and gets them over their toes so they can ride out of the trick on the toe side edge. It's really important to keep your direction on this trick. Make sure you try to edge out of the trick on your toe side edge. If you're over-rotating, it may help to look towards shore, but a little bit away from the boat to help keep your direction. The reason why there's two different back roll to blinds is because you're going to use one style for a KGB, and that's a heel side back roll with a backside 360. So for the KGB, we're going to use the up roll to blind. The other variation of the roll to blind is the down roll to blind. This is where you pass the handle on the way down, and this is more ideal for doing grabs on the way up. So that's the whole reason why there's two different back roll to blinds. For the down roll to blind, you're going to use more of a progressive edge because you need the load on the line to do a grab back roll, and then you also need a tight line on the way down so you can do a late backside 180. As you can see here in this shot, Philip on the left doing his early roll to blind is already almost done with his rotation and spotting his landing, getting ready to fall into the landing. On the right, he's doing a late roll to blind, and you can see that he's done a back roll about 3/4 of the way around, and then he yanks it to blind. For the down roll to blind, you want to do a side flip like a normal progressive back roll. But again, just like you did for the roll to revert, you're going to do about half the rotation and try to pause your rotation at about the halfway point, and then yank the blind 180 so you fall into the landing on your toe side edge. Whenever you pull on the handle, that actually starts your rotation again and finishes the last half of your rotation, as well as completes the backside 180. So you have to really learn how to get control of your back roll so you can pause them in midair and then use the handle to accelerate the spin and last half of the rotation. As you pause in midair, you should have a tight line, so as you go up the wake, you don't want to pull on the handle at all. You want to leave it out and let it stay tight throughout the rotation, so on the way down, you can really yank on a tight line and you have control. And this is what's going to give you slack so you can get into the blind landing position. The key element of this trick is definitely the blind landing. You definitely want to concentrate on your heel side, backside 180, and landing blind. You want to try to do them as late as possible. Alright, when you take an approach on this trick, you definitely want to drift slow and then load the line at the bottom of the wake. We're definitely going to use a lot more line tension on this trick than we are for the up roll to blind. So as you get to the trough, start loading the line and then stand tall through the wake into a progressive back roll, and then keep the handle out and your arms nice and relaxed. You don't want to pull on the way up, and then you're going to yank on the way down. Remember, you want to try to use a slow rotation. As you can see there, Bo actually over rotates a little bit, but he's so used to doing the trick, he's got control of it and he can recover from that little mistake. So again, make sure you throw the board away from you and you open up with your head and shoulders for the progressive back roll, and then you can see right there, Bo has slack on the landing so he can get into the blind position to accomplish the late roll to blind or the down roll to blind. This is a great trick to grab because you have the whole first half of the rotation to do whatever you want. And when you grab a back roll, you actually want to take the trick up and pause the back roll. And this is kind of the same thing you do when you grab a back roll, so it works out perfect for a grab roll to blind. Popular grabs on this are anything towards the nose of the board, like slob, nose, melon, anything like that, and it just helps you pause the trick. As you can see, when both riders leave the wake, they are pushing the board away from the boat, and this signifies the progressive back roll. You can also see that their shoulders are opening up and their head is leading the rotation. So as soon as they spot their landing, they're gonna try to stop the rotation and then pull on the handle as hard as they can behind their back to do the backside 180. As soon as you start pulling, you got to turn your head really fast because that really initiates your rotation and helps you finish the backside 180. So right here, you want to pause, pull, and then turn your head so you can spot your landing on the other side of the spin. The down roll to blind, like the up roll to blind, you still want to look away from the boat on the landing and try to bend over and continue your edge out into the flats on your toe side edge. Again, you want to be able to have control of the speed of your back roll, or be able to change speeds of the rotation of your back roll for both the up and down roll to blinds. Probably the most important part of being able to do both of these tricks. For both tricks, you can land them with all three handle pass variations. Even though you're doing the trick late, you can still pass the handle early and land with the handle in your hand. You can also land cuffed and blind.
Since the toe side edging position is already twisted, adding a frontside 180 to your toe side back roll is as simple as untwisting your hips. If you feel very comfortable with your back rolls, adding a frontside 180 should be no problems with just a little bit of handle placement at the right time.
Next is a toe side back roll to revert. A lot of people make the mistake of doing a straight backflip on the trampoline when preparing for this trick. It is a back layout, but you want your hips to be more twisted away from where the rope is attached, and you actually want to throw your feet away from where the rope is attached or away from the handle off the mat, so you have line tension and so the trick edges away from the boat, because that's what really helps you initiate a really good back roll. As you leave the mat, you definitely want to push your hips forward and let your heels drag behind. If you let your heels drag behind, this keeps your hips in front of you and you won't fold in half and over-rotate the trick. So make sure you keep your hips forward and keep a taller rotation. The cool thing about the toe side back roll to revert is you're in a twisted position when you're edging in for the trick, and your hips naturally want to untwist. So you're going to actually let the rotation just untwist off the wake by, a little manipulation with the handle. So as you leave the mat, you want to push your hips forward, but then move the handle to rotate and then spot your landing. When you study the spectrum progression tree, concentrate on the switch heel side progressive back roll, because that's the last half of the toe side back roll revert, and that'll set you up for the landing. When you're ready to take it to the water, you definitely want to use a taller position. When riders squat down, they tend to use their shoulders too much. They throw their shoulders into the back roll, and this makes them over-rotate, and it also puts them into a squatty position where they don't get as much pop. Try to use a taller position and load your line at the bottom of the wake, and try to edge the board away from the wake and push your hips forward as you leave the top. And you initiate the rotation of the flip. You're going to initiate the rotation by moving the handle and actually looking towards your lead shoulder. As you flip, it's going to feel more like you're looking back, so you're going to actually look in two directions on this trick. A lot of riders actually go for the grab on this trick to help them rotate, because when you release your lead hand to actually go for the grab, your back hand stays on the handle and it gives you a cross-body pull to help unwind you for the trick. You may want to try this technique if you're having problems rotating the trick. The only downfall to letting go of the handle is you have to use strength in only one arm to keep the handle tight and control the trick. This trick is a lot easier with two hands, so I would definitely recommend trying to learn the trick with two hands and not go for the grab to learn the trick. As you can see, both riders are leaning hard down the rope in the trough, and then as they go up the wake, they really push their hips away from the boat and up into the air. Right here you can see that Ben on the right really has his hips away from the boat and his upper body is leaning towards the boat. And he goes for the grab, and that actually helps him rotate the trick. You also can bring your front leg up or front knee up to your chest to help you grab the nose of the board, and then spot your landing on the way down. A popular grab for this trick is anything close to the nose of the board, just like a roll to revert. So it would be a slob, nose, or a melon grab. On your way down, this is where the switch heel side back roll comes in, it's going to feel exactly like a switch back roll. So you want to stop your rotation by moving the handle out towards the flats and then fall back against the rope on your heels and try to continue your edge out into the flats to land strong. This is another one of those tricks that if you can get any type of pop on your switch toe side, you're going to be able to do the switch version because you're landing forward, and it's easy to do a half cab toe side back roll to revert. Whenever you have the trick dialed and you're ready to go for the grab, you want to start the trick with a little more bend in your legs, but really concentrate on trying to keep your position as tall as possible. Try to bend your knees only to the point where you feel comfortable enough that you have enough bend to actually push off the wake and get enough pop to actually rotate the trick and grab it at the same time. Like the back roll, it's one of those tricks whenever you grab it, the grab actually speeds up your rotation, so you're going to concentrate on a little bit slower of a rotation because actually tucking up and bringing your knees in is going to speed up your rotation. So if you use your normal rotation and try to grab it, your normal speed plus the tuck will give you twice what you need. So you'll probably end up over-rotating the trick. So make sure you slow your rotation down and you have control of your toe side back roll so you can do this. Here you can see a comparison of the grab version and the non-grab version. One thing that you want to think about is make sure you don't have a toe side back roll where you actually go flat and huck the trick or throw the trick really hard. You definitely want a progressive toe side back roll. And the reason you want to concentrate on this is because it's going to prepare you for Pete Rose's down the road. Same exact positions, just a more compact position on the left with Philip. As you can see with Kurt on the right, he has a little bit taller of a position than Philip on the left, and he's actually letting go of the handle on the way down to help himself unwrap for the toe side front side 180. So make sure you shorten up your approach to force yourself to edge to the wake so you don't go flat and you don't have a flat, hucky roll to revert.
The hillside front to fakie is a very broad trick. It can be done with or without a grab, wake to wake, or out in the flats. The frontside 180 can be rolled right off the wake, or you can turn it just before you land. Let's take a look at a couple of different front to fakies and help you pick the one that's right for you.
So now we're going to talk about the heel side front flip to fakie. Remember, a front flip is a tip-to-tip rotation and you're flipping towards the boat a little bit. And it all depends on what your back shoulder does. If your back shoulder closes towards the boat, then you're going to do a front flip. If your back shoulder opens, then you're probably going to do a frantrum or a tantrum-like flip. For the front flip to fakie, you want to try to do a big front flip, and I try to over-rotate it a little bit. On the way down, you're just going to use the handle to do a late 180. So it's really important to be able to do really big heel side, front side 180s landing out in the flats. This will prepare you for this trick. This is one of those tricks that it's a lot easier to take big because you have the line tension to control the rotation and actually control the landing. On the trampoline, it's another trick that you want to actually jump against the rope a little bit so you have line tension on the way down to turn the 180. If the line's loose, then you don't have anything to leverage against and it's hard to actually spin the 180. Like I said earlier, the main focus point in this trick is the heel side, front side 180. And you should be able to take these really big and out into the flats to prepare for that switch toe side landing. When you're ready to take it to the wake, you want a really nice progressive edge, but you're going to edge aggressively a little bit earlier than the trough on this one. For this trick, you definitely want to make sure you're patient and you don't start your edge too early so you go flat, because that'll cause you to do the frantrum or the tantrum-like flip. So stay progressive and then take the trick high up off the wake by lifting your knee and then throwing your shoulders into the trick, and then on the way down as you spot your landing, move the handle, and remember to try to over-rotate this trick. You need the over-rotation because that's what helps you get over your toes for the landing. If you're tentative on this trick and you hold back with your rotation, then you're going to under-rotate and land on your heels and then eventually slide out and land on your butt. As hard as it seems to over-rotate tricks, on this trick you definitely want to try to over-rotate and go out the front on one so you experience both sides of the spectrum. Chances are you'll probably under-rotate the first few, and then to be able to find the middle, I like to get riders to find both sides of the spectrum. So over-rotate one, and then you'll be able to find the middle, no problem. As you can see, both riders leave the wake by bringing their knee up to their chest, and they initiate the rotation with their shoulders. But the key point is look at the back shoulder on both riders. Mike on the right's back shoulder is forward, and so is mine on the left. Both riders are spotting their landing, but as soon as I spot my landing, I start to move the handle in a different direction as Mike. As you can see, Mike lets go with his backhand so he can land a front flip, and I actually move the handle back towards the wake to initiate the heel side frontside 180. You want to push it really hard towards the wake and to the side. It doesn't really help to pull it in or anything like that, just push it straight to the side in a straight line across the back of the boat. On the landing, really try to break at the waist and get over your toes and continue your edge out towards the flats. Many riders actually have a lot of success with switch heel side front flip to fakies or half cab front flips. The reason why is because you're turning back to forward again. Here's a different variation. You can roll this trick right off the wake and it looks really stylish. For this you usually take a shorter approach and you're progressive just like you are for the bigger version. But taking a short approach helps the trick stay wake to wake, and when you're doing the rolled version it's a lot easier to do this wake to wake and grab the board and look a little bit more stylish like Keith does here. This is a really cool variation of the trick. This is one of those tricks where you can really take it big and grab the board. Slob front to fakies or nose grab front to fakies have been around for a really long time, and they never get old. I really like watching those tricks and actually doing that trick. Every time you see one, it looks like a really nice big variation of a wakeboard trick, and it's definitely a crowd pleaser. Here's a shot where you can actually see the difference between the rolled version and the late version of the heel side front flip to fakie. On the left you have Keith rolling it early, and you can see he actually turns his shoulders off the wake as he leaves. On the right, my shoulders are a little bit more open, so I'm doing more of a front flip first and turning the rotation late. So right here off the wake, he's coming around and it almost looks like he's going to do a switch front roll and land toe side. On the right, I'm still doing a front flip, and then I'll move the handle and turn the rotation late. Again, for both tricks, you're going to kick out of the trick, but try to break at the waist and get over your toes so you can edge out.
The heel side krypt is a combination of an air railie with a huge heel side frontside 180 into the flats. The key to landing this trick is how you use the handle. So let's check it out.
Alright, we're going to talk about our first railie trick in the video, and this is the heel side krypt. Basically, you definitely need to learn how to do railies before you do this trick, and you definitely have to have control of your big heel side frontside 180s. That's the key to being able to do this trick. On the trampoline, you're just going to do a normal railie, but instead of moving the handle or pushing the handle straight down towards the mat to get your feet underneath you, you're going to move it to the side, and this is what gives you the leverage to spin the 180. As you can see, both riders here push their hips out off the top of the wake and off the top of the mat, and this is what initiates the railie. One thing you don't want to do on this trick is you don't want to approach the wake too heavy on your back foot, thinking about the 180. You definitely want to do a railie first, and then try to do a late 180 on the way down. If you come into the wake back foot heavy, then chances are the nose of the board is going to fly away from the boat, and you're going to do a stargaze railie. This is a railie where you actually twist open and the tip of the board turns away from you, and it's not a very good looking railie. If anything, you want to try to turn a little backside and then do the late 180. Again, the key part of this trick is the heel side frontside 180, landing out in the flats. If you can't do big heel side frontside 180s, then I wouldn't recommend trying this trick until you can. This is another trick in the load and release family, and you're going to want to use a progressive edge. You're going to want to load the line with your shoulders, and sometimes it helps to actually add a little bit of legs to this trick, so sitting down will help you be able to push the trick really high up off the top of the wake. I wouldn't recommend doing this until you are able to do a railie with a taller position, because then you'll understand how to get in the position to push your hips out off the wake. A lot of times when riders sit down to do railies, they go flat at the wake, and you shouldn't do this until you have a little bit of experience and you're consistent with railies. Here we have a comparison of the heel side krypt and just the normal railie. And as you can see, I'm seated a little bit more so I can push off the wake. But both riders at the wake stand really tall, but with their hips out behind them to initiate the railie. Another point, their arms are relaxed and the handle is out. You definitely don't want to approach the wake with the handle in, because then when you let the handle out, you're going to have a really slack line and then no control over the rotation of the 180. Right here, both riders are extended, and then the difference is, on the right, you can see Mike push the handle straight down towards the water. On the left, you can actually see me brake with one hand, and then the hand that stays on the handle, I'm actually moving the handle towards the wake, and you saw that little movement right there. Also, after I move the handle and I'm getting ready to land, I try to let my toes drag behind me a little bit so I can get over my toe side landing. If I get the board too far out in front of me, then I'm going to probably slide out on my heels and land on my butt. These regular and goofy illustrations are great, so you can get the perspective depending on what foot you are forward. While many are capable, only a few pro men and women still do the tantrum to fakie. This trick has been pushed aside by the tantrum to blind over the years, but as soon as tantrum modes become popular, the popularity of the tantrum to fakie will come around full circle. Alright, we're going to talk about our first tantrum trick in this video, and this is a tantrum to fakie. Basically, it's a tantrum with a heel side front side 180, and it's a late 180, just like the front flip to fakie, just like the heel side krypt. So make sure you have good control of that trick. The key to the tantrum to the fakie is really over-rotating the tantrum so you get over your toes. The biggest mistake for riders is under-rotating the tantrum because they're afraid to take a face plant, but that's really what makes this trick work. It can really hurt to land on your butt on this trick, so make sure you over-rotate. Make sure you initiate a nice big tantrum. For this one, you can use either style tantrum. You can tuck or you can lay out. I'd recommend something in between. You definitely want to tuck a little bit to help you rotate faster. As you spot your landing, you want to pass the handle across your body and then move the handle back towards the wake to do the 180. On the trampoline, try to square up with the rope. I see a lot of riders face the rope or face where the rope is attached. I really stress to riders that they should stand in line with the rope because this is the position you take off in on the water. Again, for the tantrum to fakie, concentrate on your heel side, front side 180s, but something to think about is the switch toe side front roll. The last half of this trick is a switch toe side front roll, and that's a trick that a lot of people never do. As you can see here on the water, you want to take a nice aggressive edge. You want to flatten off at the wake, square up, and then rotate really quick. And you can see I actually tuck my knees in a little bit, so I rotate really fast, and then I move the handle to initiate the 180. You want to kick it over fast, yank on the handle across your body, and then move it again towards the wake so you can get over your toes. Any trick that incorporates a frontside 180, you're going to have a handle move back towards the wake, and you're going to try to move the handle behind you and then look towards shore or just break at the waist and try to get over your toe side edge. Coaching has changed over the years. A lot of people used to say, look towards shore a lot or look towards the boat, but I don't really say that too much because you really have to concentrate on spotting your landing and having good timing so you can land soft. So I have a lot of people actually look down at the water and just worry about their body position in other ways. If you manipulate the handle right and use the handle to your advantage, then you can get away with not looking towards shore. When you look towards shore, you really don't know when you're going to land and you can take some hard landings. So really try to concentrate on looking at the wake on the way in so you can really get your timing down and consistent, and then spotting your landing on the way down. Here you can see I square up really nice and I pop the trick straight up, and then as soon as I leave the wake, you'll see my knees yank in a little bit to initiate a faster rotation than a normal tantrum. The handle's out, so the rope doesn't get too slack because I need something to pull on the way down. On the way down, you definitely need a tight line so you can move the handle and be able to do the 180. This is another one of those tricks that you're going to have to take a face plant to actually find the middle of the spectrum again. You want to over-rotate one to get the feeling of actually rotating too far, and then let off a little bit to actually stick the trick.
Like the roll blind, there are two different handle pass variations in the tantrum blind. You can either pass the handle on the way up or on the way down from doing the invert. Each way has its advantages and will lead to harder tricks. Let's start off with the more popular of the two, the tantrum blind with the handle pass on the way down.
Alright, we're going to talk about the second tantrum trick on this DVD, but we're also going to show you two variations of this trick like we did for roll to blind. We're going to teach you how to do a late or down tantrum to blind, and we're going to also show you an up tantrum to blind. First, let's talk about the more popular version, the down tantrum to blind, and this is where you're going to pass the handle on the way down. For this trick, it's a lot better to use a back layout to initiate the rotation. And the reason why is because it gives you a tighter line, so on the way down you can yank the heel side backside 180. On the trampoline, you want to initiate the flip off the mat with your hips throwing forward and your head and shoulders. You're going to throw that back. That'll initiate the layout, but keep the line tight so you can pull on the handle and do the backside 180. For this trick, it actually helps to let the board go around the back of you so the line stays tight and you have something to pull on the way down. And you do this by being a little bit more progressive on your edge. most important part of this spectrum tree is the blind 180, or heel side backside 180 landing blind, and that's what helps you stick that blind landing. When you're ready to take it to the water, again, you want to stay a little bit more progressive for the down tangent of the blind, and this allows the board to go around the back of you a little bit, keeping the line tight so you have something to pull on the way down. As you leave the wake, it helps me to bring my front knee up, and that helps me get a little bit more of a straighter up pop, so I have time to do the backside 180 on the way down. After you flip the trick and you're rotating, think about doing a big tantrum, and then right there you want to definitely spot the top of the wake on the other side, and that's your time to pull the backside 180. It's like a timing device. As soon as you see the white on the top of the wake, you pull on the handle and pull the backside 180. As you can see here, Mike keeps his approach short, and this allows him to be a little bit more progressive on the trick, and you'll see that the board will travel a little bit more around the back instead of over the top. When the board travels over the top, the rope's a little too loose to pull hard enough on the handle to do the backside 180. You want to use a seated position for this trick so you're able to get off edge and square up at the wake to do a nice tantrum off the top. If you're too tall, you'll have too much leverage to get off edge and switch your edges for a trip flip edge. Try to keep the handle a little bit closer in on this trick, as you rather than what you would do for a railie. A railie, you'd keep your arms out. For back rolls, you'd keep your arms out. For this one, you want your arms a little closer in, elbows to your side, so you have a little bit more control. And this will also help you get off edge at the wake. When you take off, again, you want to do a back layout. So you're going to initiate the rotation by pushing your hips forward and throwing your head back, and that'll allow you to see your landing early, as you can see here. As soon as you can see your landing, you want to pull in on the rope. Right here you can see on the right, Mike's pulling on the rope, his muscles flex really hard, and he's yanking the blind 180. When the board travels around the back, what that does is it slings your body down over your toes, and you can see this as Mike lands his tantrum to the blind. He's really broken at the waist, and that helps him get into the blind landing position. This is one of those tricks that if you can take it really big out into the flats, it's one of those really cool looking tricks that can be made even more technical just by going a little bigger on the trick. As you'll notice here, Mike doesn't really take a bigger approach on the trick, he just edges harder, and that's key to this trick. If you take a really big approach, you'll go too flat at the wake and the line won't stay tight enough to pull the backside 180 on the way down. So keep your approach about the same distance and then just edge harder. In order to take a tantrum to blind way out in the flats and land blind, you have to really take a lot of time and work on your heel side, backside 180s, landing blind out into the flats. And I remember seeing Mike take the time to actually learn that. So you would definitely want to spend some time with your backside 180s and make sure that you can land blind out into the flats and take that impact and still get over your toes in the blind position. Both tricks look exactly the same, just one has a harder edge, so it carries more distance out towards the flats. A great way to determine your distance is by speed. Like I usually say, edging is side to side, standing tall is up. So different combinations of each will give you different results. Here we have a grab tantrum to blind. For this, you're going to want to use a back tuck back flip. And the reason why is because you need to bring the board in to be able to grab it. So what you do off the top of the wake is you stand tall, and when you tuck, that initiates your rotation. for a regular indie tantrum, you want to tuck so you bring the board in and that makes you rotate. For an indie tantrum to blind, you want to tuck harder so you over-rotate a little bit and that forces you down onto your toes on the blind landing. If you do the same rotation as you would for a normal indie grab on your tantrum, then you'll probably under-rotate, kick out of it early, and land on your heels. So make sure you kick in hard and really rotate fast, faster than normal, so you can do the blind 180 but still bend over and land on your toes so you can edge out of the trick. Usually when people land blind and under-rotate, they usually get spun back around because they're too far back on their heels. In order to keep the blind position, you need to over-rotate. And you can see here, Andrew actually under-rotates this trick a little bit and gets yanked back around by the rope, and he tick-tocks out of the trick. Again, the most important part of this trick is the heel side backside 180. Next, we're going to talk about the up tantrum to blind. This is the other variation of the tantrum to blind. And in this spectrum tree, you want to get used to passing the handle early on your heel side backside 180s. As you can see here in the comparison, on the left we have a down tantrum to blind. This is where you rotate late. And on the right we have a early handle pass or up tantrum to blind. And you can see how early I get the handle on this trick. Both of them have the same exact approaches, but as you square up, you're going to turn off the wake and pass the handle on the way up for the up tantrum to blind on the right. For the down tantrum to blind, you're just going to be patient and then yank on the way down. For both tricks, you still want to over-rotate and get over your toes for a toe side landing. And I actually under-rotate this trick and slide out, but still recover. On the trampoline, you want to stand squared up, just like you did for the down tantrum to blind, but you want to pull the handle right off the mat and pass it behind your back. It helps to actually learn this on the trampoline without the handle. You're just going to do a back flip with a 180 without the handle in your hands and then slowly incorporate the handle into the trick. Right off the wake and off the mat, you can see my head turn, and that helps me rotate the trick early. Just like the up roll to blind, it's important to get the handle as soon as possible because that'll help you unwind for the last 180. It turns it almost into like a wrap trick, and the handle does a lot of the spinning for you instead of you trying to spin the trick. On the way down, you want to keep your head facing away from the boat so you don't over-rotate, and that's the mistake I actually make on this trick, and that's what makes me slide out a little bit on my heels, as you can see on the left. My head comes around too far towards the boat. So look away and try to land edging away from the wakes. When you're ready to do this trick on the water, you want to square up a little bit more than usual, more than you would for the late tantrum to blind, because you need a little bit more of a straight up pop so you can get that handle. As soon as you leave the top of the wake, pull hard on the handle and pass it behind your back. The up tantrum to blind is ideal for getting yourself ready for Moby Dicks. Moby Dicks are a tantrum with a heel side backside 360. So this is a great way to get ready for that trick. A lot of riders actually skip this trick and go straight to the Moby Dick because the last half of the Moby Dick is an easy rotation, but I wouldn't recommend skipping this trick because it'll give you better form on your Moby Dicks. You're going to use a seated position on this trick so you can get off edge and square up at the wake. When you hit the wake, you want to start turning your shoulders immediately off the top of the wake as well as your head, and then turn the handle down so you can pass it behind your back. Right here you can see that I'm actually standing tall over my toes just a tad bit, and that's what gives me that straight up pop so I can rotate the Moby Dick. in midair, you can see the handle pass where I'm facing backwards, and then I'll let go with my original hand and the rope will unwind me for the backside 180. Right here you can spot your landing. This is a little bit harder of a trick to spot your landing on, but right here you want to look at the whitewash of the wake and look straight down the wake line so you can look away from the boat and land over your toes. This is definitely the tougher variation of the two tantrum to blind variations, and it's not a real popular trick. You don't really see it that much in wakeboarding anymore, but it's great to learn if you want to learn a Moby Dick down the road.
The scarecrow is a front roll with a frontside 180, or a front roll to fakie. This is probably the easiest trick on the DVD, and with little practice, people that are already confident getting inverted behind the boat should have no problem with this trick. Remember, this trick is a front roll to fakie, not a fakie to front roll. Flip before you spin to set yourself up for an easy hillside landing.
Next flip that we're going to talk about is a scarecrow. The scarecrow is a front roll to fakie, or a front roll with a front side 180. A lot of riders spin too early and this causes the board to go out too far behind them, and it causes problems with the trick. So make sure on the trampoline you concentrate on a good front roll base and then spin on the way down. So stand in a toe side position off the mat, throw your head and shoulders straight forward, and then about halfway through the rotation, that's when you're going to start rotating your shoulders. A lot of riders actually rotate off the wake on this trick, and as you can see on the right, Mike's actually turning his head right off the mat, and what this does for people that are trying to learn the trick is it throws them back on their butt for the landing. Mike is able to control this because he's been doing this for a long time. When you're practicing good habits, I'd try not to do that on the trampoline. Try to turn on the way down. As you can see on the left, Kurt hasn't actually turned his head yet, and he's waiting till he's on the way down from the trick, and this is more of a proper way to do a scarecrow. The most important thing to concentrate on in this spectrum tree is the front roll. The toe side front roll is the most important part of this trick, and remember, it's not a fakie to front roll, it's a front roll to fakie. You got to spin on the way down. You're going to use a trip flip edge for this as well, and you're going to turn hard on the outside at first, and then you're going to switch your edge at the wake to square up for the front roll. Basically, this is just a handle move. That's what initiates the rotation, that's what accomplishes the rotation, just moving the handle. So after you do the front roll, you're basically just going to move the handle across your body, and that's what rotates the scarecrow. This is an easy trick. It's probably one of the first tricks that you'll learn with a 180. And the reason why is because you can turn really easily off the wake and look over your back shoulder, and that's what helps you rotate this trick. Again, I can't stress more that it's important not to rotate the 180 portion of the trick early. Make sure you do a nice front roll off the wake. Make sure you square up at the wake and boot yourself into a straight over front roll. As you leave the wake, you're going to open up your shoulders, turn your head, and move the handle out towards the flats to rotate the 180. When riders edge progressively on this trick, it causes the problem of edging through the wake too much and the board slingshots around the back of them, and it causes them to fall on their butt and even harder onto their side. So make sure you use a trip flip edge and you square up. I like to tell riders to actually hit the wake kind of stiff on this trick on their heels with their shoulders back. And what that does is it kind of pole vaults them into the flip. Like a pole vaulter will jam his pole into the pit, and that's what stands him up to actually jump over the high pole. So that's kind of what you want to do on this trick. You want to act like a pole and hit it stiff so the wake will kick you up, and then you can initiate the rotation after you stand tall off the top of the wake. Here you have a nice hard edge at the beginning. This indicates the trip flip edge, and then you'll see both riders actually come off their edge and bring their shoulders back a little bit so they can square up and get back on their heel side edge at the wake. Off the top of the wake, you're going to stand tall, and you can see that the riders both have the handle in a little bit so they have control, and then they open up their back shoulder to rotate the trick. Again, don't rotate it too early, try to concentrate on doing a front roll. And the actual natural rotation of a front roll will have a little bit of shoulder turn in it, so that's why you see it right here off the wake. Right here, both riders could make the decision to either do a front roll or a scarecrow just by moving the handle in a different direction. So that's kind of how you want to think about it. If the front roll is good, move the handle, and then get ready for a switch heel side landing. You can spot the wake on this trick since you're leading the rotation with your head, and that way you can anticipate that heel side edge. That heel side edge is what's going to help you land this trick strong. Another thing that you want to use to prepare for this trick is nice switch jumps. Be able to land wake to wake and even switch jumps out into the flats, and you'll be able to stick this trick no problem. When it comes to grabbing this trick, you want to use a little bit of knee bend on your approach so that way you can jump straight up off the wake. And that's kind of what I think about doing when I do a grab scarecrow, is I jump straight up and the grab actually flips me. As you can see right there, my rotation is very slow and my knees kicking in is what kicks me over. I try to actually kick myself in the butt as hard as I can as I leave the wake. And you'll be able to see that as I leave the wake. Boom, right there. I kick myself in the butt, and that's what actually makes me rotate. Whenever you do a grab scarecrow, you're going to let your front hand off the handle, and that crossbody pull will help you rotate this trick. But one thing you need to concentrate on is actually doing the front roll. If you try to rotate the scarecrow off the wake and grab the board, you'll chase the grab all the way around. One thing I tell riders when they're trying to learn their first grab scarecrows is to reach in towards the middle of the wakes, and that'll help roll their knee up to their chest and roll the tip of the board towards their hand to help them grab the board. If you rotate the trick and then reach behind you for the grab, you'll end up chasing the grab and you'll never get the grab on your rotation. A popular grab for this trick is anything towards the nose of the board, melon, nose, and even slob scarecrows.
The tootsie roll is known as one of the easiest handle pass inverts. Although it may look intimidating and confusing at first, there are a couple key steps to making this front roll with a backside 180 a lot easier. So let's check out those steps.
The tootsie roll is another front roll variation trick. You're going to use a nice front roll base for this trick again, but instead of rotating front side, you're going to rotate back side. This is another one of those tricks where you have to be able to get the handle on the way up, like the early handle pass roll to blind and early handle pass tantrum to blind, or the up versions of those tricks. What allows you to get the handle early is giving a hard pull as you're leaving the wake. And you can see on the trampoline, Mike actually turns his upper body and he throws it away from the boat and turns it away from the boat, and that's what helps him initiate the rotation. As he's doing that, he's yanking on the handle into his front hip, and that's what allows him to get the handle early to rotate and make the handle pass. One thing that you might want to do to help understand how the rotation works is on the trampoline, take the handle out of your hands for a couple times and learn how to rotate the actual backside 180 with the front roll without any leverage to pull on. That way when you put the handle back in your hands, it'll feel easy and you'll be able to rotate the trick no problem. For this spectrum tree, you want to concentrate on being able to do a toe side, backside 180 with an early handle pass. That'll allow you to be able to do the spin part of the trick. One cool thing about the Tootsie Roll is it's a heel side landing, so you can really fall back on your heels on this trick, and it makes the landing of this handle pass invert really easy. It's another trick you can take actually pretty big out into the flats and still be able to manage the line tension. It's one of the easier handle pass 180 inverts. For this trick, again, you're going to use a trip flip edge, and you're going to edge hard at the beginning and then square up at the wake. But the key is turning your shoulders and head away at the wake, but at the same time pulling on the handle. And you'll see Mike do this right here as he leaves the wake. Watch the handle, keep an eye on the handle. Right there, he's already yanking in on the handle, and then he passes it early and on the way up. This is another one of those tricks that if you get the handle, you're probably going to land the trick. The handle helps you so much on this trick. If you miss the handle or fumble the handle in the air, a lot of times you'll just not complete the trick and you'll spin back around to front roll. The last half of this trick is actually a switch tantrum, so that might help you for the landing, but that's kind of a hard trick, so you probably won't take that route, but it's something to think about to help you break down the trick. Here you can see Mike is edging in hard, and then as he enters the trough, you'll see him back off his edge and get back over his heels a little bit so he can pop straight up. Right there you can see he's already pulling the handle into his waist, so he's able to get the handle pass super early. As Mike leaves the wake, he's already turning his head down, and what this does, he's turning his head down towards the water, it turns his shoulders and everything away from the boat, and this initiates the rotation. On the right, you can actually see his hair flying, and it started flying when he turned his head, and that kind of signifies his rotation. Right here you see a slack line on the left, and that's from that hard tug that Mike gave as he left the wake, and that allowed him to get the handle pass. For this trick, you can really get away with a lot of mistakes. If you under-rotate, you land on your toes, and you can carve out of the trick, and you can over-rotate the trick and land on your heels and butt out of the trick, so it's a really forgiving landing. One thing that you don't want to do is under-rotate too much, because crushing your ankles on this trick really hurts. So make sure your first ones are over-rotated instead of under-rotated. The heel-side mobius has been around almost as long as wakeboarding and is a heel-side back roll with a front-side handle pass 360. While the mobius started dying off, the ability to poke and grab this trick really brought back its appeal. So let's start breaking down this technical trick. The heel-side mobius is one of the first 360 flips done on a wakeboard. It's been around forever. A lot of people used to do this without the wake, and it's called an air mobe. It's actually coming back in popularity because a lot of people are doing it with grabs. On the trampoline, it's a little harder to do this trick because you don't have the line tension, and the line tension on this trick really helps you rotate the spin and the flip at the same time. You're going to use a progressive back roll on this trick, and every time you add a 180 to your progressive back roll, you're going to slow down your rotation even more. So for the roll to revert, you did about a half the rotation. For the mobius, you're going to even do less of a rotation than the roll to revert. And this is going to seem scary at first, but what this does is it allows you to do more of a spinning flip and land on your heels. If you put too much rotation into the trick, you're going to take a nice hard face plant because you'll over-rotate the flip and you'll go out the front. So again, you should be able to control the rotation of your back roll to be able to do a roll to revert and a mobius. In the spectrum tree, probably the key parts for this trick are the heel side frontside 360 and the heel side progressive back roll. Those are the two main parts that make up this trick. All the other ones are just used to basically break down and think about the trick. As you leave the wake on this trick, you want to really turn your shoulders and head away from the boat and try not to throw too much hips into the trick so you over-rotate. If you really turn your head and shoulders off the wake, the tip of the board will turn far away from the boat and that'll initiate the rotation. Try to leave your arms relaxed on this one as you approach, and then after you get in the air, that's when you're going to yank the handle in, and that's going to help you rotate. It's the same pull that you would use for a heel side frontside 360. As you leave the wake, you're going to pull the handle to your back hip. As you can see, both riders start on a slow edge. It's a nice progressive edge, and then at the bottom of the wake, they'll add a little load on the line. On the right, we have a roll to revert. On the left, we have the mobius, so you'll be able to see the difference in between both tricks. Both riders leave the wake in the same exact position, nice and tall, hips up, handle close. But you can see on the left, Keith is already turning his head into the rotation because he's doing a 360 instead of just a frontside 180. You'll also notice as soon as the video starts moving again from this still shot, Keith will move the handle to his back hip to initiate the 360 part of the mobius. As soon as you move the handle with two hands to your back hip, you're going to brake with one hand for the handle pass. It's important to keep two hands on the handle so you can pull it in hard to get enough slack to pass the handle. On the way down from this trick, after you make the handle pass, a lot of riders actually look towards the boat to stop the rotation. Another thing that's going to help you stop your rotation is by moving the handle out towards the flats. Moving the handle gives you the leverage to stop spinning and to stop your heel side back roll rotation. This is another one of those flips that you can grab and it looks really stylish. Heel side mobiuses tend to be a really technical mobe. And anytime that you hear the word mobe, you're talking about a flip with a 360 handle pass. So here we have Andrew grabbing his mobius, and we have Keith on the right with the non-grab mobius. You can see Andrew has more of a seated position so he can stand taller off the wake, and he actually has his upper body a little bit too far forward, and this isn't good form for learning, but Andrew is good enough where he can make up for his position at the wake. You can see Keith has a taller position because he's doing more of a straighter up mobe. If he was going to grab the board, you'd probably see Keith sitting down a little bit lower. At the wake, Andrew brings his front knee up to his chest and then he reaches out for a nose grab on this mobius. On the right, Keith has pushed his hips out, and you can see right there, he's letting his heels drag behind him a little bit to get his hips forward so he can pass the handle easy and in the small of his back. Whenever you're taller on this rotation and you let your hips drag behind you, it allows you to rotate the 360 part a lot easier. And then you can fall back on your heels on the landing part of the trick. Again, you want to fall back on your heels on the landing and move the handle out towards the flats to stop your rotation.
The KGB, like the mobius, is a back roll with a 360, except you'll be spinning backside instead of frontside. For the KGB, you'll also be doing a Mexican roll instead of a progressive back roll, and you'll be doing an early handle pass instead of a late handle pass. Let's take a closer look at all the elements that make up the KGB.
The next trick that we're going to talk about is a KGB, and this is a heel side back roll with a backside 360. For this handle pass trick, you're going to use a Mexican back roll, and you're going to use the up roll to blind variation that we talked about earlier. For For the KGB, you're just going to turn your shoulders a little bit harder and a little bit faster off the wake so you can rotate another 180 on the way down. After you learn the roll to blind, the KGB tends to be a really easy trick because all you're doing is moving the handle across your body so you can land crossed up and finish the last 180. Off the trampoline, you can actually see Mike turning his shoulders and head really hard and fast as soon as he leaves the mat, and that's key to this trick. Another main thing to focus on is the pull on the handle. As soon as you leave the wake, you should be pulling hard on the handle to advance yourself in and create enough slack so you can make the handle pass and finish the rotation. One skill that you might want to learn to prepare yourself for this trick is either switch toe side, front side 180s landing crossed up, or heel side, backside 3s landing crossed up. What I mean by landing crossed up is actually doing the 180 or doing the 360 but landing with your front hand off the handle. A lot of times people will pass the handle again and finish the trick with the handle in their front hand instead of their back hand. Right here you can actually see Philip do a KGB, but he doesn't land crossed up, he actually finishes with his front hand on the handle, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. But as he leaves the wake, he really turns his head and shoulders into the trick, but he also pulls hard on the handle. This is one of those mobes that you can actually take big out into the flats, and that's becoming really popular these days. Riders are actually taking a really hard edge on this trick. Whenever you take it out in the flats, it helps to go a little bit flatter at the wake to help you get the board started into the rotation. As I talked about earlier, you want to loop out on this trick, and what I mean by that is stay heavy on your tail so you can push the tip of the board out in front of you and start the rotation off the wake. In this shot we have a comparison of an up roll to blind and a KGB, and you'll see the only difference is a little bit more shoulder turn at the wake and probably a harder pull, and then on the way down you can see Philip actually turns his head again to finish the 180 rotation. You're going to use a little bit more knee bend on your approach for this trick so you can push off the wake and then stand tall to go straight up to rotate the trick. Right here you can see he has the same position for both tricks, but then as he leaves the wake, he's going to pull a little bit harder on the left side for the KGB than he would on the right side for the roll to blind. It also looks like Philip puts a little bit more back roll rotation into the trick, and again you're going to use a Mexican back roll to initiate this trick by throwing your head and shoulders straight down towards your feet, as well as turning to initiate the rotation. You can also see that he's a little further into his rotation because he needs to put a little bit more effort into the roll to blind to give himself a little bit more oomph to do the KGB. Right here as he's passing the handle, he has his knees up to his chest, but he's not folded in half all the way, so he's still able to make the handle pass, and he's dragging his heels behind him. So right there, he does a little flare to get his hips up and finish the handle pass and come down to finish the 360. Whenever you're rotating the KGB, try not to fold in half too much because this will cause problems with the handle pass. If you fold in half, you have to reach really far to reach the handle behind your back. If you stay taller, then the handle will be a lot easier to reach. Another way that you can learn the KGB is by doing it wrapped, and what this does is wrapping the rope around your body will actually do the rotation for you. All you have to do is initiate the Mexican back roll.
One of the things that makes a Pete Rose look so good is the ability to grab it for a long time. This actually helps you with your body position in the air. So let's check out how to do a Pete Rose.
The Pete Rose is definitely one of my favorite tricks. The key to this trick on the trampoline is being able to control the speed of your toe side back roll and your toe side back roll to revert. When you do this trick on the trampoline, you want to do about 3/4 of a rotation on your toe side back roll to revert and then pause. You should be able to stop your rotation in the air, and then when you pull on the handle for the late backside 180, that's the part that actually speeds up your rotation or finishes your rotation, as well as spins the 180 on the way down. As you can see, both riders push their hips forward off the wake, and Ben actually grabs the board and this really helps for this trick to help you rotate. Right here in this shot, this still shot, you'll notice that my rotation is stopped and that it won't travel much further as I rotate and spin. See, it's only rotated a little bit from last frame to this frame, and that's key. You gotta definitely stop your rotation, then pull on the handle and spin the 180, and that actually finishes your rotation. If you rotate too fast, you'll over-rotate and land on your heels. You wanna rotate slow, yank on the handle to finish your rotation, and then land on your toes. And you can see Ben actually lands a little back on his heels on his Pete Rose. That's a mistake he rarely makes. Ben has a really nice Pete Rose. One thing that I'd like to point out on this spectrum tree is the switch heel side roll to blind on the way down. The last half of a Pete Rose is a switch heel side roll to blind, and it's the late style that you would do on the way down. Here we have Andrew doing a Pete Rose, and he actually doesn't have the most ideal position to learn this trick, but he's good enough where he's able to get away with it. Ben, on the other hand, has a better body position. It's a taller position, and he's using a progressive edge. As he gets to the trough, he's going to load the line hard across his back arm and then push his hips away and then stand tall off the wake. For this trick, most riders grab it, and what this does is it helps them rotate the last 180 because you have one hand on the board, one hand on the rope, because it gives you the leverage to pull the two things together to make the handle pass. It's almost like doing butterflies in the weight room. You're pulling the weight together and it gives you leverage on something to do the handle pass and do the rotation. And you'll see almost every rider that does a Pete Rose, they'll do it with a grab. It's another one of those styly inverts. It got its name from Scott Byerly. When Scott Byerly would do this trick and under rotate, he would go out the front and actually slide into the water like Pete Rose would slide into home plate in baseball. And that's how the trick got its name. Scott Byerly was the first person to do this trick, and it's a really stylish invert. Probably one of the more popular mobes that you'll see today. If you're trying to go pro, this is probably a trick that you should be able to do. Right here you can see in the chase boat shot, the board actually travels away from the boat as Ben leaves the wake on the right. He drives his hips away from the boat, grabs the board, and then his handle is all the way out, and that allows him to yank in the late line 180. Right here you can see both riders have their arms out, so they're leaning against the rope and edging nice. If you pull your arms in, you'll pull yourself off edge and you'll go flat at the wake, so relax your arms so you can edge progressively. Now on the left, you'll see Andrew load the line a little different than Ben. Ben stays taller. Andrew actually loads the line by bending over a little bit. I would take the taller route so you get a better load and a better pop at the wake. Right here you can see Andrew makes up for his position by standing tall, and that's what makes him such a good rider. He's able to make up for his position. On the other side, Ben just has really good form and he's able to do the trick really smooth. Ben has probably the second best looking Pete Rose in the industry, I think. He does this trick textbook every time, and it's always late and big. You can see both riders yank hard on the handle, and they're both looking away, so when they can land over their toes and edge out of the trick on their toe side edge. A big part of being able to rotate and flip these handle pass inverts is anticipating your edges in the air while you're doing all this other stuff. So this is something that you're gonna have to work on. Thinking about the handle pass, the spin, but also thinking about how to stop your rotation so you can get over so you can anticipate your next edge.
The front flip mobe is a heel side front flip with a front side 360. Many people pass this trick off thinking it's too hard, but if you have a nice front flip and you're very good with your heel side front side 360s, with a bit of trampoline practice and a few key steps, this is the trick you should be trying your next set. Let's start breaking down the heel side front flip mobe.
The next mobe that we're going to go over is the heel side front mobe. This mobe tends to be a little more intimidating than I think it should be. It's a heel side front flip, and I think that's why a lot of people stay away from actually trying to do a 360 with this flip. The heel side front flip is combined with a heel side front side 360 to actually complete this mobe. The key to this trick on a trampoline is throwing a lot of shoulders into the trick and doing about half of the front flip before you actually start the rotation. So as you leave the trampoline, throw your front shoulder down and lift your back shoulder hard to initiate the cartwheel front flip. And then after you finish about half of the front flip, you want to start rotating your shoulders into the trick. On the trampoline, you're naturally going to rotate a little bit earlier than you should. On the water, you can see how Mike hasn't really even started rotating the 360. If you rotate too early on this trick, you'll roll the trick over too much and you'll land on the rope on the way down. You'll get hung up. When we say that you're getting hung up, it's usually you're getting caught up in the rope or caught up in your rotation and you get stopped and you usually take a fall. One of the key things to think about in this trick is the heel side front side 360 and the front flip. Basically that's what you're going to think about when you're on the water. First doing a heel side front flip, initiating that rotation, and then the same pull that you would do for a heel side front side 360. On this trick, you're going to want to take a nice slow turn and a progressive edge. And you're going to want to put a lot of energy into your front flip. As you leave the wake, you want to lift that shoulder and bring that knee up to take the trick straight up. But then as soon as you get up in the air, throw your front shoulder straight down towards the water to initiate a faster rotation than a normal front flip. As you chop that shoulder straight down, you're going to pull on the handle and pull it towards your back hip to advance yourself towards the boat and create the slack to rotate the front side 360. Again, I stress that it's important that you don't rotate the 360 too early, because then you'll rotate and get hung up into the rope. So make sure you do a lot of the front flip first before you spin the 3. For this trick, you want to use a little bit more knee bend and sit down as you approach the wake than you would for a normal front flip, because you want to push the trick straight up off the top of the wake. So that way you can throw your shoulders straight down and rotate the 360. As you can see here, Mike approaches the wake with the handle in a little bit. It's not in all the way so he can still pull on the rope, but he's got his arms bent so he has control over the handle. And as he pops off the top of the wake, he really throws his shoulder into the trick. As soon as he starts rotating, he's going to throw that back shoulder into the rotation. As he chops his back shoulder down, he pulls on the handle and moves the handle behind his back to do the front side rotation. You also see that he leads the rotation with his head, and that helps him finish the 360. On the way down, you're going to want to give another little pull on the handle so you can finish the rotation, and then actually move the handle out towards the flats to stop the 360 rotation and fall back on your heels so you can edge away from the wakes. The heel side front mobe is commonly known as a slim chance, and this actually got its name from the switch version, which is called a fat chance, and that was first landed by Scott Byerly. The S-bend is a heel side railie with a two-handed overhead backside 360. It got its name from inventor Shannon Best and became one of the more intense variations of a railie. Also in this section, we'll break down the Vulcan, which is an S-bend with a late frontside 180. Let's break down both of these tricks and show you a low-impact way of learning them. For the S-bend, we're going to show you a low impact way of actually learning this trick. The spectrum tree, you're going to concentrate on the wake skate S-bend, and this is a way to actually rotate the trick but not take hard falls. Since you're not connected to the board, you don't have the board hooking on the water when you fall, and the falls will be a lot softer since you're moving forward in the water. On the wake skate, you want to take a hard edge, and as you leave the wake, you want to push the railie out behind you, but really rotate your shoulders and head underneath your arms. One key to this trick is really getting your arms far back behind your head as possible. If your arms stay out in front of your body, then you're going to get hung up and you're going to do more of a front flip instead of an S-bend. So here we have a progressive edge on both the wake skate and the wakeboard. And then as you leave the wake, it helps to bring your front knee up like a front flip. And what this does is it begins the rotation off the wake. Even though you're letting your hips out, you're still going to bring that front knee up, so it starts the rotation of the board and you start to turn backside. You'll also notice that both riders have their elbows out to their sides and their arms aren't actually extended all the way. If your elbows are bent a little bit, it gives you the leverage to actually spin yourself. If your arms are out all the way and they're straight, then you don't have as much leverage to rotate the backside 360. For this trick, you're going to want to take a nice slow turn and a progressive edge, and then you're going to really load the line so you carry this trick out in the flats. This is one of those tricks that you really have to be aggressive on and go big in order to complete the backside 360 along with the railie. It's really important to have a really good railie base on this trick. You should be able to do your railies really big out into the flats so you have time to rotate the backside 360. Here we have a comparison of the railie on the right and the S-bend on the left. And you'll see for both tricks you set up exactly the same. It's just what you're doing with your upper body as you leave the wake. As you get close to the trough, you're going to really load the line. If you notice on the left, Jerry has his elbows bent a little more than Mike on the right, and this is because he's going to rotate the S-bend. Off the top of the wake, he still has his elbows bent a little bit where Mike has them straight, because Mike's just doing a railie and he's just going to let the board straight out. Right here, you can see having his elbows bent allows him to create the momentum to throw his body into the backside spin. As he leaves the wake, he looks under his arms and underneath his back armpit, and this allows him to turn and rotate the trick. Now as you rotate the backside 3, when you come around and you spot your landing, you want to try to open up again by arching your back. A lot of people, when they spot their landing or when they come around from the backside 3, they fold in half too early, and that's what makes them look like they're doing a big arms over their head front flip. So make sure you open up twice on this trick. You're going to open up off the top of the wake, and then you're going to rotate the backside 3, and then you're going to open up again, and then you're going to push the handle down towards the water to bring your feet underneath you for the heel side landing. In this section, we're also going to talk about the vulcan, and the vulcan is just a variation of the S-bend where you add a heel side, front side 180. For the vulcan, you want to have your S-bends down, and this is kind of a rewind trick. When you do the backside 3, you're spinning a front side 180, so you're actually bringing the board back and rewinding your rotation 180. So make sure that you have your heel side krypts down and really big heel side, front side 180s down before you actually try this trick. So 3 points that you should have down are the S-bend, the krypt, and the heel side, front side 180. For this trick, when you open up again for the second time in the S-bend, you're going to push the handle down but back towards the wake to actually move yourself and start rotating the heel side, front side 180. You can see right here, both tricks have the same exact position, but then you'll have the different handle move to determine the different trick. On the left, Jerry's moving the handle back towards the wake to do the 180. On the right, he's moving it straight down to get his feet back underneath him so he can land back on his heels for the S-bend. So there's not much difference in an S-bend and a vulcan. you're basically just going to move the handle on the way down, and that's what distinguishes the trick. For the Vulcan, make sure that you bend over your toes and continue your edge on your toes out towards the flats. Really anticipate that next edge because that's what's going to help you land this trick. For the S-bend, you also want to over-rotate the backside three a little bit, and this will help you get over your toes for the landing.
The 313 is an air railie with a frontside 360. It's a great invert to learn if you want to do something big and technical. Just like other tricks on this DVD, it can be broken down pretty easily. Let's take a look at the key elements that make the 313 work.
The next railie variation that we're going to talk about is a 313, and this is a heel side railie with a heel side frontside 360. One thing that you want to concentrate on, and Mike actually doesn't show this very well on the trampoline, he actually turns his body a little bit early into the 360. And this is kind of cheating and can make this look like a really big off-axis 360. So make sure you really concentrate on doing a railie first, then rotating the 360, because you don't want to get into a habit of stargazing your railie and then pulling the 360. So basically you want a nice tight line on your railie so you can pull the handle in hard and move it to your back hip so you can rotate the 360. Now when you do a railie, you actually push the handle back down towards the water to get your feet underneath you. Pulling the handle in on this trick is actually what gets your feet back underneath you. Instead of pushing it down, you're going to pull it in. So you're accomplishing two things. You're getting your feet back underneath you, and you're creating the slack so you can make the handle pass. One of the things that helps you land this trick is being able to do heel side, front side 360s out in the flats. It kind of gets you ready for the intense rotation and landing of the 313. Again, you're going to want a nice progressive edge on this trick, and you're going to want a nice tight line as you leave the wake. So stand tall, let the handle out smooth, but then yank hard in, and that'll bring your feet down and help you rotate the trick. Here we have a comparison of the 313 and the railie, and you can see the difference in position is just in the arms. Mike again is doing just a railie, so his arms are going to be a little bit more relaxed, whereas Jerry needs to be ready to pull, so he has a little bend in his arms, and that helps him get into a power position to actually pull on the rope. So right here you can see both riders have a nice seated positions and their shoulders are back against the rope, so they're edging hard. And then as they leave the wake, they're pushing their hips out behind them. But here's the difference. Mike's arms are straight out at the wake because he's just doing a railie, and Jerry's on the left are a little bent, so he's ready to pull for the 360. Now you can see that Jerry actually has the tip of his board opened up a little bit towards the stargaze position, and that's what kind of gets him ready for the 360. But make sure you don't do this too early. Make sure you try to do a straight railie, and even turn your board a little backside so your railie doesn't look like it's stargazed before you pull on the rope. If you want to help yourself learn this trick, you can cheat it, but it's not a good habit to form, and you definitely want to make sure you do a nice railie first. As you pull on the handle and yank it in, you want to turn your shoulders and your head so you rotate the trick, and then try to stick your chin on your front shoulder so you finish the rotation. A lot of people have a bad habit of leaving their head in the middle of their body and not really getting their chin on their front shoulder, so they don't complete the rotation and fall back on their heels. It might even help to look out towards the flats at the water instead of straight down in front of you at the water, so you finish that rotation and you keep edging out towards the flats. whirlybird is a tantrum with a backside 360 olé instead of a handle pass. If you're looking to land your first 360 invert and you have your tantrum dialed, the fact that there's no handle pass makes the whirlybird a great place to start on your quest for conquering all the 360 inverts. The whirlybird is a tantrum or backflip with an olé backside 360. This is a cool variation of the trick because there's not many tricks like it. When you're on the trampoline, you're going to stand squared up and in line with the handle, and you're going to do a backflip with a backside 360. Before you get to the water, you want to do two things. You want to learn how to do this trick without the handle, so you understand how to use your arms in the trick, and then you want to put the handle in your hand so you understand how to get the handle over your head. If you learn it without the handle first, you'll understand how to throw your arms and body into a backside 3 rotation, and then when you get the handle in your hands, you'll be able to use the handle for even more leverage to sling some weight over your head. Probably one of the key points on this trick is getting the handle in front of your rotation. A lot of riders leave the handle late, and behind the rotation they get hung up and yanked back to tantrum. Now you'll see a heel side backside olé 360 in this spectrum progression tree, and this is kind of out of the ordinary. This is just something to help you break down and visualize the trick, and it's probably not a trick that you'll actually learn. Whenever you take the trick to the water, you want to use a seated position and a trip flip edge, but as you leave the wake, you want to bring your front knee up, kind of like you would for a heel side front flip, and this gives you a straight up pop, but it also helps you roll towards the boat so you can roll into the olé spin. As you approach the wake heavily on your edge, you want to switch edges, square up, and then try to roll your body inward towards the boat. This really helps you get the handle over your head and in front of your rotation. If you try to throw the trick away from the boat, you'll struggle with a tight line and you'll probably get hung up and yanked back to tantrum. So here we have a shot from the side, and you can see I really get off my edge, square up, and then pull that handle in close and get it ahead of my rotation. If you get the handle in front of your rotation, the trick becomes a wrap trick, and the rope will actually help you unwind for the landing. One thing that I like to do that helps me rotate this trick is I leave the wake with both my arms out, and then I do this thing like divers do off of a high dive. When they flip and spin, they have their arms out, and then when they want to start spinning, they pull their arms in close to them. And if you'll notice, they put one across their chest as they bring it in, and this creates momentum to help you spin. Your arms are a big part of this trick, so you need to learn how to use your arms, and that's why I recommended that you learn how to do the backflip 360 without the handle at first. You'll notice as I leave the wake with both arms spread, and actually my back hand is up in the air, and I'm putting it out, and I'm going to get ready to pull it in to help me rotate. Another good analogy to think about is when a pitcher is pitching a baseball, he points his glove at the catcher, and then as he pulls through to throw the pitch, he pulls the glove into his chest. And that's kind of what I'm doing here as well, and that helps me rotate. On the way down, as I rotate the trick, I really make sure that I get the handle around my head so the handle's in front of my rotation. And as I rotate, I'm really tight, and then I open up really big to stop my rotation. And that's basically how you control flips with spins. You have to rotate tight, and then when you want to stop, you open up. It's probably pretty smart to over-rotate the spin on this trick so you can open up and stop the rotation. You definitely don't want to under-rotate and then fall on your toes.
For the Moby Dick, you're going to use the up tantrum to blind variation we talked earlier about in the DVD. Since you get the handle so early and on the way up, the last 180 is just a handle move and hips twist away. This is probably the second easiest handle pass 360 invert behind the Crow mobe.
Just like the whirlybird, you want to learn the Moby Dick without the handle first, so you understand how to rotate the backside 360 on the trampoline. So take the rope out of your hands and then learn how to flip and spin. Then put the rope back in your hand and learn how to do the up variation of the tantrum to blind. This will allow you to get the handle very early, and then all you have to do is move the handle across your body to complete the last 180 of the Moby Dick. A Moby Dick is basically a tantrum with a handle pass backside 360. So after you rotate the trick and you're on your way down from the up tantrum to blind, you're just going to move the handle across your body like you see in this shot. I actually move the handle out towards the flats and across my body, and that helps me land crossed up. One thing that I'd focus on this trick is definitely the up tantrum to blind, but also the heel side backside 360 landing crossed up, because that's how you'll probably land the Moby Dick. Again, you're going to use a trip flip edge for this trick. You're going to sit down so you can get off your edge, start hard on your edge towards the wake, but then back off and let go with your back hand before you get to the wake. For any tantrum trick, you want to have your back hand off the handle before you get to the wake, because that helps you square up. As you leave the wake, try to rotate your shoulders away from the boat and turn your head so you lead the rotation with your head and rotate the backside 3. Make sure you get the handle on the way up, so as you fall out of the trick, you can move the handle across your body to finish the last 180. The Moby Dick is one of the easier of the mobes because a lot of people learn a tantrum first. It's also a mobe that you can grab late. You can make the handle pass, rotate the trick, but then reach down and grab the board like you would do for a heel side backside 360 that you would grab late. Here we can see in the split screen shot, on the left we have the rider boat, and on the right we have the chase boat, that when I leave the wake I bring my front leg up like a front flip, and this helps me get a more straight up pop. This way I have time to rotate the 360. It may help you to bring your knees up a little bit on this trick to help you rotate faster, because you need a little bit more rotation to rotate the Moby Dick than you would for an early handle pass tantrum to blind or an up tantrum to blind. As you can see right here in this shot, I have my back hand off the handle, and this is key for tantrum, so you square up. And then as I leave the wake, I stand tall and bring my front knee up a little bit so I get a more straight up pop. You're going to want to roll towards the boat a little bit on this trick, just like you would for a whirlybird, and this helps you get a slack line and make the handle pass. Whenever you're passing the handle on tricks like this, make sure you pass the handle with both palms down. If you try to pass these early handle pass tricks crossed up, then you'll run into problems with the handle pass. As you can see right here, I've made the handle pass, and it actually looks like I'm going to just do an early handle pass tantrum to blind. But then you'll notice I'll move the handle across my body, and that rotates the last 180. It also helps to get your front hand back on the handle so you can fall back against the rope and edge out of the trick on your heel side edge. Here we have the grab version of this trick, and Andrew does a late grab as I was talking about earlier. When you do this, you're going to do the same exact Moby Dick, but on the way down you're just going to pull your front leg in toward you so you can grab the nose of the board. Both tricks look identical from here. The only difference is Andrew gets the handle pass done a little bit earlier so he can reach and grab the board. I still have both hands on the handle on the right, and I'm not as rushed because I'm not putting a grab on the trick. Right here you can see same exact position. Both riders are spotting their landing over their front shoulder and they're getting ready to move the handle across their body. When you land, again, you want to get your other hand on the handle so you can fall back against the rope and continue your direction out towards the flats.
The crow mobe is one of the first 360 inverts that people usually learn. The hard part is the blind landing. So once you dial in your toe side, front side 360s, you should be able to land this trick without too much trouble.
The crow mobe is one of the easier mobes. You're going to combine the toe side front roll with the toe side front side 360. If you spin too early, the board will go around the back and cause problems with your landing. It'll usually make you land on your heels on the landing and slide out. So make sure you initiate a front roll rotation off the trampoline or off the water before you start rotating the trick. One thing that you need to understand when you get into the advanced inverts is when the rope needs to be loose and when it needs to be tight. For this trick, it's important to have a slack line at the beginning of the trick, so that way when the boat moves forward, it'll tighten up the line for the end of the trick. If you don't pull at the beginning, the line will be tight at the beginning and loose at the end, and it won't allow you to be able to pull to get into the blind landing. So make sure you pull after you initiate the trick, and then the line will be tight so you can pull again to get into the blind landing. On the spectrum tree, you want to concentrate again, initiating a toe side front roll so you don't spin too early, but also on your switch heel side backside 180s and landing blind. That's probably the most important part of this trick. You're going to use a trip flip edge for this trick by starting hard on your toes, approaching the wake fast, and when you get to the foam outside the trough, back off your edge so you can square up and trip at the wake. As you leave the wake, throw your head and shoulders forward and up into the air to initiate the front roll, and then rotate your shoulders and head over your front shoulder to initiate the 360 part of the trick. One thing that helps me rotate this trick is bringing my front leg up like a front flip. It gives you a little bit more of a straighter up pop, and you hear me say this for a bunch of tricks and it really does help. As I said earlier, for the front roll, it helps to hit the wake kind of stiff to get that upward pop like a pole vaulter. So hit it tall, stand tall off the top of the wake, but then pull in as you leave the wake, so that way the line will be tight for the landing so you can pull yourself into a blind position. Some riders do this trick with their arms over their head, and what this does is it kind of slings the rope around and it may get you out of control. So you want to try to keep the handle down around your waist so you don't get out of control in the air. Here we have a shot of the rider from the boat as well as the rider from a chase boat. And as you can see, as the riders edge in, they start their edge hard on the outside by leaning down the rope. But then as they get close to the wake, they back off their edge and push the board up the wake first. When you get to these advanced tricks, you need to learn how to manipulate the board. And what I mean by this is getting the board into positions that help you get better pop. And for this trick, you want to get the board out in front of you before you get to the wake. So that way the board will go up the wake first, and then you can push off your back foot and go over the board so you'll have a more straight up pop. This will give you enough time and position to rotate the 360 and do the crow mobe. So after you pull on the handle and rotate your head and shoulders, you're going to try to spot the top of the wake so you can pull again to get in the blind position. So you can see here, both riders have their arms out and they're getting ready to pull. When both riders land, they bend over at the waist so they get over their toe side edge and they edge out of the trick on their toes. You can do this trick with all 3 handle pass variations, and passing the handle early will prepare you for crow mobe 5s. Here we have the grab version of the trick, and bringing your front leg up off the wake or front knee up to your chest off the wake really helps you get the grab for this trick. Remember, when you grab the scarecrow, you want to reach in towards the middle of the wake so you don't chase the grab. Whenever you grab the crow mobe, you have to let go with one hand, so you're going to have to do a one-handed pull on the rope. So it takes a little bit more arm strength. What I think about when I try to do a grab crow mobe is trying to elbow myself in my own ribs and kicking myself in the butt with the board. And this helps kick the board over my head and pull the handle in so I can rotate the trick. Whenever you do the grab version of the trick, you're going to approach the wake with a little more bend in your knees so you can push straight up and grab the board. If you'll notice here on the left, you'll see Andrew grabbing the board, and his body is actually a little more straighter over his board as he leaves the wake, whereas Joey on the right is actually throwing his body forward more because he's not grabbing the board. Whenever you grab a wakeboard, when you're flipping and spinning, you want to go straight up off the wake, and the grab will actually help you rotate. I definitely recommend learning a handle pass on this trick as well as landing blind, because that way if you get into trouble or make a mistake, you'll have a way out. And this is kind of a part of becoming an advanced rider and improving your consistency, being able to deal with mistakes and recover from them.
The toe side backside 360 is one of the hardest of the 4 360s. That's why it's not surprising that the dum-dum is one of the harder 360 inverts. The toe side landing and the awkwardness of the spin make this trick a real challenge, but not impossible. Make sure to stay aggressive and don't be afraid to go out the front to claim this trick is yours.
The dum-dum is a front roll with a backside 3 rotation. We just talked about the crow mobe, and that was a front side rotation. We're going to do the opposite for this trick, and that's a toe side backside 3 incorporated into the front roll. The key to a dum-dum is really over-rotating the front roll so you get back over your toes. It really helps to have some experience with toe side backside 3s before you do this trick, because it helps you with the handle movements involved in the trick. On the trampoline, you're going to want to throw the rotation very hard and throw your body away from where the rope is attached, and turn your shoulders and head off the wake as you did for the tootsie roll. On the way down, move the handle across your body for the second handle pass, and then once you get the handle in your front hand again, you're going to want to move the handle back towards the wake and then break at the waist and get over your toes. If you can, on the trampoline, try to get your hips twisted back into the toe side position. I know this is hard because you don't have the line tension, but it's something you want to work on. Again, a key point to work on is the toe side backside 360, but it helps to think and visualize a switch tantrum to fakie, because that's kind of the last half of the dum-dum. When you take this trick to the water, you want to get on a hard edge at the beginning so you can really square up at the wake. When you square up, the wake is going to trip you hard and initiate your rotation enough to get you over your toes for the landing. Another thing that helps you rotate this trick is pulling hard off the top of the wake and throwing your head and shoulders into the rotation. Here we have a comparison of the tootsie roll and the dum-dum. And basically, both of these tricks will start exactly the same. You'll just see another handle movement on the way down from the trick. You're going to edge a little harder on the dum-dum and then back off your edge a little bit more than you would for the tootsie roll, so you can get back over your toes for the last part of the 360. As the riders get to the wake, you see them backing off and cocking their shoulders back, almost as if you were pulling the trigger of a gun back to pull the trigger. So as you ride up the wake, push the tip of the board up the wake first, then pull the trigger and throw your shoulders forward into the front roll rotation. At the same time that you're throwing your shoulders forward, yank the handle in towards your front hip, and then rotate your head and shoulders into the backside 3 rotation. The weird thing about this trick is you can look at the water the entire time that you rotate the trick. Since you're rotating backside and you're throwing your head down towards the water, when the board's over your head, you have a clear line of sight at the water the whole time you're rotating, so you can spot the landing a lot earlier than people realize. So as you see the whitewash on the second wake, that's when you want to move the handle again for the second handle pass so you can complete the backside 3 rotation. I think the reason why this is one of the harder mobes or 360 handle pass inverts is because the toe side backside 360 is one of the hardest of the 4 on axis 360s.
Your balls, dude. That ain't right. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down into their most basic parts. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down into their most basic. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down into their most basic. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down into their most basic parts. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down to their most. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down into their most basic parts, developed skills to make them simpler. Yeah, at least it's not hot. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken skills, broken tricks down. As a result of this philosophy, we've broken tricks down to the. As a result of this philosophy, Hi, I'm PJ Marks, owner of the Wakeboard Camp. I opened the camp back in '96. I don't want to say back. Hi, I'm Aaron Reed.
Just when I thought it was safe